I really wish that people would learn to actually research a person first before they decide to cancel them. But then again, at the same time, seeing how cancel culture is, it doesn't surprise me that this happened. So some of you guys are probably wondering, why is it that I'm talking about Alice Cooper, seeing how music is not really and truly my thing, even though I've made a couple of videos about a couple of musicians, a couple of artists, Jason Aldean, and of course we've got this one of Oliver Anthony I'm going to be releasing later on this afternoon, which of course you guys know me. I make these videos typically a day before because I don't do trending topics anymore. I want to make sure more and more facts come out before I actually do anything. But the reason why this story kind of baffled me is because a lot of people don't know that Alice Cooper, aka Vincent Furnier, is actually the son of a minister. Yes, that's correct. The shock rock legend is actually the son of a minister. Now, why is that relevant in this take? Well, because Alice Cooper is also a Christian. If these people had actually done their research, they would not be surprised that Alice Cooper is not exactly okay with transing 6-year-old little kids. But before I get to that I need to tell you guys a little story about how it is that I know this. You see, it isn't just the fact that you can just go online, look at an article, or go to YouTube and find an interview that he did with the 700 Club or any other minister. Don't worry, I'll be playing you guys a couple of minutes from one that he did recently with Pastor Greg Laurie, and I'll talk about him a little bit in this video as well. But the thing that I want to get to is this here. When I was a kid, right around 13 or 14 years old, I actually had a bit of a music phase. While kids I was growing up with leaned towards Limp Bizkit and Kid Rock and, of course, Rage Against the Machine and all those other bands that came out in the late 90s and early 2000s. Yes, I'm a bit of an old fart compared to most of my audience. I actually found myself gravitating towards classic rock. Old school Led Zeppelin, the Beatles, the Stones, AC/DC, 80s rock as a whole, Def Leppard, Whitesnake. As a matter of fact, I used to watch VH1's Behind the Music a lot, and one of those artists, of course, that used to pop up a lot was Alice Cooper. It's where I found out that Vince Furnier, who actually is from Detroit, Michigan, was actually the son of a preacher, and is actually a very, very, very devout Christian, as I will be showing you now. Make sure you guys pay attention to the next 2 minutes.
Vince Furnier, probably known to you as Alice Cooper. How did you go from Vince to Alice?
We were called the Naz. N-A-Z-Z.
Yeah.
And we found out that Todd Rundgren's band was named the Naz, so we had to change the name. Now, we already had a notorious reputation in LA.
Right.
We were the band that was like, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Very theatrical thing. And everybody said, well, let's call ourselves the Demon this or some horrific name. I said, what if we go the other way? I was thinking Betty Crocker.
Betty Crocker.
I was thinking, what's a great grandmother name? And then they get us, right? And the first name I thought it was Alice Cooper. I said, it's like Alice Cooper. I thought that was a great grandmother name.
Yeah.
Right. And it stuck. Everybody got the humor of this. They got the humor of, oh yeah, I get it. The juxtaposition of this. Now, one of the guys that was a road manager and his mother did the Ouija board all the time.
Yeah.
And they asked it, who is Alice Cooper, and it spelled out my name. Now, I believe that as far as I can throw this building.
Yeah.
But it was a much bigger story. Oh, they got the name for the Ouija board. She was a 13th century witch. Okay, the public wants to believe that.
Yes.
Rather than we were smart enough to call the band something opposite of what we were.
Yeah.
We wanted people to think they were going to get a blonde folk singer, and they got us.
So speaking of a juxtaposition, how that happened, now tell them who Jesus Christ is to you.
Well, I mean, it's everything. I mean, we're not here without him. Most people I know, young people, think Jesus Christ is a swear word.
Yeah.
Even at Solid Rock, where we have the teenagers down there,
right.
They have no idea that who Jesus Christ is.
Yeah.
He's not preached enough.
Yeah.
Most written about character of all time.
Yes.
In history.
Right.
And yet people go out of their way to not believe in him.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's because they don't want to give up their godship.
Yeah.
They want to be, I'm a good enough, they believe the Hollywood version of, I do more good than bad, that kind of thing. And I go, why is that?
Right.
Satan's got you right where he wants you,
Yeah.
To believe that.
Yeah.
I said, because I am the way, the truth, and the life, and
That's
no one
right.
cometh to the Father but by me.
Right.
I said, those are the truest words ever spoken, and
Yeah.
how can you deny that?
Yeah.
You know, so as far as I'm concerned, I mean, my life is based on that now.
Yeah.
It's not based on, I'm rock and roll. It allows me to be a rock and roller. But follow me.
Yeah.
So my lifestyle is, you know, my wife and I both, it's our lifestyle, our kids, it's a Christian lifestyle.
Yeah.
But again, it's the old saying, why should the devil have all the good music?
Yeah.
You know,
Before I talk about Greg Laurie, I want to talk about Alice Cooper just a little bit more. So when I was a young kid, right around 13, 14 years old, I kind of got into the whole classic rock thing while all my other friends were listening to new music, which I, for the most part, just didn't like. Yes, I'm older than most of the audience that watches my content, or parts of the audience that watch my content. Not everybody, I've seen my analytics. Most of you guys fall between the age of 35 and 44, but my second biggest demo is the 25 to 34, but maybe you guys still kind of know where I'm coming at with this one. The thing is this right here. I got to learn a lot, especially from his behind the music. I thought it was kind of weird that this guy was a preacher's son, which, by the way, kind of helps explain the song "No More Mr. Nice Guy," which I cannot actually sing for you guys, or else I'll get a copyright claim. But a very interesting bit at the very end. He said that he was sitting in the pew, and his father and the preacher come over and punched him in his nose because he would go to church incognito. He didn't want to be recognized. He was referring to the people he lived in his town. Apparently, Detroit, Michigan was where he hails from, but he was actually raised in a much, much smaller community outside of Detroit, so therefore people already knew who he was. The song "No More Mr. Nice Guy" was him basically saying, look, I'm not going to be nice about this anymore. I've taken on a brand new persona. I'm trying to be successful. I don't care what you guys think. The song was about the reaction to his actual musical career, and it's heavily hinted that he was talking at the very end of the song. He was talking about his father. Now, granted, he's also got other great songs like "School's Out." You'll hear me mention like "Feed My Frankenstein," "Hey Stupid," "Poison," all this. You'll hear me mention those songs here soon. "Under My Wheels" is another very good one, very underrated one. Fact of the matter is, though, is that while being a rock star and while going through a lot of things that he went through, he still, for the most part, maintained his Christianity. He still maintained his belief in God. It's actually a very interesting story how he was raised and what he was actually like before he decided to become a musician. It's actually very, very weird if you look at a lot of the old photos. You never would have thought that this guy who's wearing suits and ties and like Brooks Brothers type clothes would eventually go on stage with long hair, makeup, and performing with a python. You would be very shocked to see that out of him, but still at the same time, this vampire cosmetic store that does Halloween costumes and stuff, which is obviously trying to get the spooky, scary type stuff, especially seeing how it's late August and we'll be going into October. We'll be here much, much faster than you know. It doesn't surprise me that these people got triggered by his comment, which, by the way, he was 100% correct. So when Alice Cooper, a.k.a. Vincent Furnier, tells you that he is not okay with transitioning kids, and even though he used to do performances with snakes and slap his ass and do all kinds of sexual illicit stuff, which really wasn't that much compared to other people in the 70s and the 80s. I mean, such great songs like "Feed My Frankenstein," "Hey Stupid," "Poison's" one of my favorite, "No More Mr. Nice Guy," which, by the way, I'll talk about here in a second, because it's about redemption. At the end of the day, you need to be able to forgive people and realize that people are human. They do very stupid things early in life, and then they eventually mature. Unlike what's happening to these kids who get this procedure done and, quite frankly, can't get it reversed. And even if they did try to reverse it, it causes a lot of damage. But don't worry, we'll get to that here more in a second. Greg Laurie is also very interesting. You see, Greg Laurie was the topic, the main character in that film, Jesus Revolution. Jesus Revolution, if you didn't see it, was a movie about Chuck Smith eventually bringing in a lot of hippies. One of them, of course, was Lonnie Frisbee. That's right, there's a different case on its own. But he brought in a lot of these hippies who, by the way, were trying to find Christ. It was a thing that, quite frankly, made a lot of people question his motives behind what he was doing. You see, these hippies were viewed as nothing more than pot smokers, drug users. They went to Woodstock, experienced a lot of free love through dog crap at the boys getting off the plane, coming home from Vietnam, all that type of stuff there. Very unsavory things, very unpatriotic things. But Chuck Smith took them in and showed them the way. Of course, he had to work with Mr. Frisbee, and of course, a lot of these hippies eventually got saved, became Christians, and completely turned around their life. And now they evangelize. I know I was about to say that wrong. Alice Cooper, of course, is a former rock star. He's obviously dabbled into a lot of things that rock stars do, in fact, dabble into. He's been doing it for years, but of course, he's tried to tone it down in his life, and he's tried to live a much, much cleaner life. Fact of the matter is that there's such thing called redemption. People can, in fact, redeem themselves. But then again, though, at the same time, though, you should not be surprised, as I mentioned earlier, that he had this to say. Also, Carlos Santana, he recently got some flack, too, for pretty much saying the exact same thing mid-concert. Fact of the matter is that before you decide to cancel somebody or before you decide to cut them off altogether, you may want to actually do some research, and then you would find out that this person's position was not exactly what we call surprise. I know that I'm kind of beating a dead horse here, but I need to go ahead and say this before I fully close this video. This is the deal that people need to understand, okay? When we talk about child and puberty blockers and stuff, I've been out here saying for a long time that people who have some form of gender dysphoria, they do in fact need help. We need to actually be helping these people. We need to be trying breaking these people of these habits. I mean, I would love to hear some suggestions. I mean, I've heard a lot of things about conversion therapy that quite frankly sounds okay, but then you look at some other things and maybe it does not. I'm not entirely an expert on that. But I'll probably do a video essay on that at a later date, especially when we start getting into essays, which hopefully I can fully start that process this week with one on Saturday, one on Wednesday, and of course to still do the daily content and everything. But still at the same time, though, these people need help, okay? I'm not okay with just putting these kids on some type of medication and saying, hey, look, you're 5 years old. You don't even know what the hell you're doing. You haven't even lived a life. I figured that you need to at least allow this child to grow up to at least be 18 or 19 years old before you choose to make that type of decision. And to go on top of this, it's about 80% of these kids, you find out later on, like by the time they get to 18, they just end up turning out to be gay. And of course, if they just turn out to be gay, you never know. They may find Jesus someday, may find religion, may be cured of that, and next thing you know, they're straight. I mean, doing this entire procedure cuts off this person having any possibility of a life beyond themselves. Being able to have a child, being able to father a child, that type of thing there. It's a decision that, quite frankly, I am not okay with. I personally, and a lot of other people are not. But then again, though, at the same time, I think it was Matt Walsh as well as a woman that actually exposed a lot of this. But then again, at the same time, he was also saying what a lot of us were saying in the back of our mind. We just didn't say it out loud. He obviously did put together a movie and all that type of stuff there. Fact of the matter is that Alice Cooper is not wrong on this one. And I hope, and I personally believe that he will not bow down. What I meant to say was I hope that he does not bow down, but upon realizing that, once again, I'm going off script, off point, I'm pretty sure with the amount of stuff that I know about Vincent Furnier, I don't see a guy like him who is actually quite based giving into this type of crap. But then again, though, who knows? Right there, my friends, is the point of this entire video. This right here, by the way, was not designed to be a long video, but I'm going to talk a little bit about redemption. You see, there's this little thing called redeeming oneself. Redemption. Some people like to call it the Billy Martin, for example. It's called the Billy Martin because, of all the times that Billy Martin was forced to apologize to the Yankee organization with all the spats he had with George Steinbrenner. All the time that you got to actually apologize. You see, it used to be back in the old days that when you screwed up or you did something wrong, you simply apologize. And while it may be hard for somebody to forgive you at that point in time, next thing you know, they would eventually forgive you. They would eventually just let it go. Let bygones be bygones. Not like Alice Cooper said anything that was wrong here. I 100% agree with him. These kids should not be allowed. The trend is at a very young age. They should not be allowed to do that at all. I think the parents that are pushing this and the parents that are allowing this to happen are all, quite frankly, going to hell. I hate to say it that way, but it's actually the truth. I mean, I got to be more bluntly honest with you guys. I got to find a way to differentiate myself from the rest of the pack. I mean, you only get these types of videos out of me like what? 25% of the time? Most of the time, the content, quite frankly, is boring. But the fact of the matter is this here. There's this thing called redemption, and cancel culture does not allow somebody to redeem themselves. You got to ask yourself, why is that the case? Did you think that maybe the problem is the other person? Maybe it's the person who's throwing stones at you is actually the issue? Did you ever think that maybe they got some serious underlying issues and maybe they want to see you pay for some sins that they may have committed? It's funny, if you actually go down the chain of those who are trying to cancel you, you'll find a lot of past sins that, quite frankly, nobody wants to bring up when talking about them because they're trying to create a group. Their own little play group is what they're trying to create, their own little clique. But then after a while, that clique gets smaller and smaller and smaller because next thing you know, they start canceling their own. Fact of the matter is, the reason why this is the case is because cancel culture leaves no actual room for forgiveness. Guys, they leave absolutely no room for forgiveness. And the fact of the matter is, at the end of the day, we're all human. We all do things. I mean, regardless of what it is that we do, at some point in time, we're going to have to be held accountable for it. But then again, at the same time, though, there is a God in heaven that does love you, and you can go ask for forgiveness. I'm not saying that Alice Cooper was targeted because of his Christianity. I personally think that these wokes did not realize that he is a Christian. So they were probably a little bit surprised and caught off guard. As a matter of fact, I'm kind of shocked they did not get him earlier. I just figured I would go ahead and say that. But Alice does not look like he's backing down from this. And quite frankly, I don't believe he will. And if I didn't say this already in the video, he's pretty well based. So I don't see him changing his mind or changing his opinion. But still, though, you may want to stick around for a few more days and see what happens. But then again, though, Alice is the type of person that he's got a lot of money, so I don't think he's going to be affected by this one way or the other. But still, though, at the same time, though, you may want to wait and see. With that right there being said, guys, make sure you guys hit that like button. Make sure you guys subscribe. If you're new to the channel, please leave a comment in the comment section. I would love to get you guys' thoughts on this. And I'll see you guys later.